Lit. All right. We're all very capable people. Who wants to start this thing off?
I can start off
All right, I love it.
because I've had lots and lots of revelations
Okay, I love this.
about just what we can do and how we can do it.
Okay.
And I've been really thinking about like um our audience and who we're actually talking to. And and thinking about that, I've been trying to get like metaphors or like ideas to bring the correlation of like the weight that people carry. And I met with one of my friends, and it's crazy that she's actually doing something similar to what we're trying to do, but it's from a dance perspective.
I love that.
She's a professional dancer. And she was just talking about the representation of real love in the way that she dances. And I feel like the basis also of what we're talking about is a genuine love for ourselves and what we really need in the spaces that we're in. And
Mhm.
much of the time, that love gets convoluted in how we're treated on the outside. So I was just like, man, that sounds so good. So maybe eventually at some point, depending on whatever panels that we do, she may be a good person to have as like a resource.
Absolutely. Or even do a joint thing,
Mhm.
because I don't want to keep this exclusive to just natural bodybuilding. This is
Nope, it's for
to,
everybody.
yeah, exactly. So
I think any kind of movement, honestly, would correlate really well because there's also always a mental component.
mhm.
So whatever you're trying to do. But I think for the ones that want to do it and don't know how to do it because of whatever said barriers, they don't realize that we're struggling just like you are.
Mhm. Exactly,
Mhm.
exactly. Yeah, the one, I mean, obviously I took notes in preparation for this, but the one note that I felt was most prominent and felt most in line with your description is my goal so far as the whole concept of carrying weight is to raise awareness of the weight that's being carried so that we
Yes.
can present the choice to the
Of
public,
how to
to the
carry it.
audience to drop it. But if they don't know, if they don't have that awareness, then they can't do anything with the load.
I see.
Yeah. So for me, and this is just something I've been working on like in the past I would say week, but the goal is to put a greater emphasis on choice and choice in all things. If we want to make life more meaningful and empower people to choose a path to excellence, then where is the motivation to make that choice to pursue excellence?
Okay, I'm gonna take it a step further because I think ooh, you just brought up a great point. Okay. Even in the choice to make the decision, I think there's also the piece in your choice to make that decision of what are you willing to lose for that decision.
Yes, I was working on that. Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
because that choice is going to come with some kind of loss. And that loss could mean people, it could be environment, but that does not mean that you're not elevating just because you have to step back. So let's think about like lifting,
Hmm.
lifting weight, right?
Hmm.
Let's say you lift so much you have some kind of injury. It doesn't mean you're traveling backwards just because you have to drop weight.
Hmm.
Sometimes you got to take a step back in order to take a step forward.
Deload. Yeah, yeah, they call that deload in bodybuilding. I like that. I like that. Um Going back to sacrifices, so I've been studying more on religion, faith, and Christianity. And what I like about the parallel from what it is that we're doing, which is basically the goal is to empower people to make a choice to pursue excellence. That's the big goal, right? And in the same way of Christianity, the goal of converting non-believers over to the faith of Christianity is to present them that choice. Will you accept Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior, right? When I see the parallels, I ask the question, and I'm looking to subject this to you or submit this to you. Um, what is a sacrifice? Is it a different sacrifice for each person? If they're choosing to accept Jesus Christ as their Lord and Savior, what's the sacrifice there? And if they're choosing to empower themselves with the pursuit of excellence in their own life, what is the sacrifice there? And does it differ based on the person?
I would say yes, it definitely differs based on the person, but I will say in general, the sacrifice is sacrificing your flesh, and that's any fleshly desires.
Okay.
So, sex, gluttony. I mean, that really can be dependent on any person, whatever that fleshly desire is that goes against whatever your purpose
Okay.
is. And that purpose could be very different for everybody. Everybody, they say in the body of Christ, everybody has a position, right? So in a body, you know, you have veins, you have fingers, you got a brain, you got feet. In that body, everybody has a position. So when one person doesn't sit in their position, it impacts the rest of the body. So if you don't get into, this is why it's so big and so important to get followers. Like if everybody, there's people that are tied to you fulfilling your own purpose. There's lives tied to you fulfilling your own purpose. So the idea is that if you don't get into your position, then there may be people behind you that may not have the opportunity to get into theirs.
Damn. Damn. That's deep.
Hmm. So somebody's got to say yes because there's lives attached to it. And I think, especially for me as of late, that's been like a big, big piece of like, man, my barrier, what's stopping me from really going all in? And it's really a really fleshly desire. I can make more money in another place. So, because the flesh, which is money, right? If I lean more into the money, then I miss my calling and my purpose because that's not tied to money. That's tied to the lives behind me. It's a different type of money. Let's put it that way.
Mhm.
It's a different type of, I want to say supplication. I don't know if that's the right word, but different type of provision, I think is what I'm trying to say. So my provision comes from my ability to save souls and bring people to walking in their purpose.
Mhm, mhm.
That's the win because then we all get to enjoy heaven on earth as we're all moving this direction. But we can't enjoy heaven on earth if I'm not being obedient to not the money, the idolization of money, or being the idolization of the purpose.
Right. And I love that. And if you make, again, it goes back to choice. Like choice for me is like that's like the
Yes.
alarm that's ringing off in my head. But if you make the choice to prioritize community and the people behind you, I feel, and this is like the thoughts that I've been having over the past several months as I've been, ruminating on all this, is that there is an abundance of resources within a community that is equivalent, if not greater, than a large sum of money. If you think about it,
Yes.
if you
That
can,
that is the
yeah,
riches. Yes.
yeah, if you can properly cultivate a community of like-minded individuals as that community continues to expand, then you also become wealthy, just not necessarily your specific financial but the financial situation of everyone collectively becomes greater.
When I tell you, so like, look, you guys know, like, I'm planning this big wedding October 4th, right?
Nice.
And there was this conference that's coming up in North Carolina, and I'm just like, it would not be a smart financial decision for me right now to say I'm going to go to this conference. But I really feel like that's where I need to be. And, work is kind of conflicting with this conference, along with the wedding. Like, there's some things I need to be here for. And it was what I'd come to like that question of like, God is like, you going to choose this conference or are you going to choose man? You going to disappoint man? Or are you worried about disappointing me? Because I'm already telling you where to go. So
Yeah.
I'm just like, but I ain't got the funds, right? So I'm talking to my friend about it, and she's like, "Oh, I got you." She paid for the ticket. She paid first class flight.
See, that's my
She
point.
paid for the ticket to the conference. She paid for the hotel room, and she paid for the rental car to get me back and forth, and
Yeah.
gave me some extra money on top of it for food. So he's like, "Okay, so what's your excuse now?
Yeah.
Because I've given you everything you need to
Mhm.
be able to go to this conference."
And I think, I mean, that's a perfect example of what I was just explaining. And, it's like that kind of comes out of nowhere. It's like the universe provides it, your community provides it. Easier said than done to suggest that mentality of like, hey, no, like build your community and your community is going to get your back. Like,
Yes, but you know
conceptually speaking,
why?
that sounds beautiful.
You know why it's hard to believe though? It's because we're used to being uncomfortable. We're used to being in unsafe situations. So we think of it as normal when you don't have friends that support you. we think of it as normal when friends don't hold you accountable.
Yeah.
Like that's normal. So if you're one that says, nah, that's not for me, then they're like, ooh, what's wrong with him?
Mhm.
Oh, he's this or she's that. No, I'm just protecting my peace. I'm protecting what is actually fulfilling me and what's feeding me. And you're not feeding me.
Mhm.
So I'm sorry. But the thing is, when you really start creating that community for yourself, I'm trying to tell you, it's so much, life does not have to be miserable. You can have so much peace
Yes.
when you actually have the right people behind you.
Couldn't agree more. Couldn't agree more. And like this whole thing is it's intended to be a counterculture, starting first within the fitness industry and then extending into Hollywood and then politics much later on down the line. But starting within that counterculture, the fact that we're having this conversation, it's intended to identify the core values of what this counterculture is supposed to look like so that we can actually bring people in and properly lead them in the direction that we want to take them.
So I just had another grand idea.
Mhm.
Um, do you guys ever do like competitions?
Sure.
Yep.
Yeah.
And competitions has it ever been like team building competitions?
No, but I did want to touch on that with you because I know that you have a thing called genograms where you can use it with couples, but you can also use it within team building. I was
Yes.
definitely interested in visiting that.
Yeah. So genogram is basically a way that therapists use to kind of assess family dynamics.
Hmm.
So it starts with you, your parents, your parents' parents. Then you get a pattern from the characteristics from each individual person, a pattern in your family.
Hmm.
So let's say you have a pattern of people that are like extremely smart and everybody has like prestigious like degrees or they're like doctors, lawyers, blah, 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 right? And you're like, if I'm not doing this, and I feel like I'm falling short because all my family does this and I didn't do it. And maybe there's a reason for that, that you didn't do it or you didn't like to do it. And maybe there was a pattern in your family that you're like, I want to be as far away from this as possible because I saw where the lack was, I saw the facades, I saw the cover ups. I'm not going that route. So then you get a better idea of kind of where your perspective comes from, where your morals and values come from, so forth and so on. So that's the genogram. But when it comes to the team, how does the team work together with the barriers? So what if you have somebody that's like, I don't speak up because I was always shut up in my household. So now it's best for me not to even say anything in a group scenario because when I've learned to not talk because people don't listen or I get in trouble for something every time I open my mouth.
Yeah. So, not, yeah, I hope I didn't cut you off right there.
Well,
Okay.
so well,
Yeah,
just
yeah, 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 yeah,
to
yeah.
close that up, what would you do in a team like setting when you have to speak up? So it really puts pressure on the area that maybe needs to improve in a team setting because the team doesn't win unless everybody is working at a certain level.
Okay.
So when it comes to building and stuff, we have to think, okay, how are we going to accomplish this task all together with our own barriers?
I love this. I love this. This is something that would really come in handy. And it kind of goes back to what you were saying with our first Zoom session, the Indian running.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
So basically, when I did my whole program, this is what it entailed. I want you to experience your barriers, not just in a thought process, but sometimes we don't understand it until it's physical.
Okay.
So when it becomes physical, you're like, dang, I understand why this is a barrier now because I've brought it from an emotional place that I can't see to
Uh-huh.
a place that I can actually feel and see and have a relationship with right now in this moment.
This is beautiful. And what about the fact you're touching on it, but what about the fact that okay, so you're born into this world, right? And we've already confirmed that it is definitely nurture over nature, right? So you're born into a family, and let's say that family raises you to not want to speak up, right? Because whenever you do, you get shouted down within that household, right? Then you bring that personality trait into the rest of the world. You're now an adult, you're age 30, and in the work environment, in social settings, you have been conditioned to not speak up, right?
Hmm.
Thing is that most people, depending on where you live, they don't even have the awareness that that pattern started during their childhood and
Yep.
Correct.
no longer required in order to properly move through the world in their adult life.
Bingo.
So how do we train that awareness? Awareness is like, and I like I'm pretty self-aware too, but I'm still making discoveries about my own self even now. So
I feel like in life we find them when pain hits, but there's a way for it to be experienced sooner in the programming of like weightlifting. And the reason why I say it that way is because you feel it when you got to lift something heavy or hard.
mhm, mhm.
You know, emotions take place in your body. There is a correlation between emotions in your body and like exertion physically. We just don't always bring the two together. But if you did something mental health and like lifting at the same time, you're going to get a lot of tears, a lot of frustration. And the only thing you could do is put it into something physically at that moment, unless you develop some coping skills. But sometimes sometimes lifting don't help certain wounds.
Mm,
Sometimes those wounds that are deep in that way, you just need somebody to talk to. And this is where I don't like insurance when it comes to therapy, is that there's no diagnosis that says I just need to talk to somebody. Not everybody that has a diagnosis, just because you have a diagnosis doesn't mean that you're the only one that needs to talk to somebody. I think is my point.
yeah.
People that don't have diagnosis still need somebody to talk to. And with insurance, for insurance purposes, they're not going to allow you to use their insurance unless you have a diagnosis. So you have a lot of people out there that won't seek therapy because their insurance won't cover it. And
Right.
individual therapy is a little pricey.
Yeah, yeah. And then even within that, so far as this counterculture is concerned, and if we're looking to install, let's say this movement picks up and it spreads first around the country, we got people over in Illinois implementing the strategies that we're discussing right now. Even if like within their small community in that state or within that town, there should be like a therapist like individual within the community to like that's their role. That's how they contribute. That's their value, you know? Because I totally see that like we all need someone to talk to. And there are individuals who are better at listening and holding space, like yourself, than others, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
No, that's absolutely true. And what I've realized is that, as therapists, everybody has their own like specialty or their own kind of focus.
Now, I was just about to say that this is gonna be key to try to focus on, or not focus, but not everybody's going to be comfortable using the same person in a sense, like what you were just saying, Sean, like how I've made sure, like I'm asking you all these questions, like I'm not, if I was ever to talk to a therapist before you, I would never talk to a man just because like I don't feel like I can sit down with other men and feel comfortable telling another dude my motherfucking my business or how I feel about what I went through and shit like that. But a female, you guys are nurturers. You guys come off different than a male. Like I don't know how to explain it. Growing up in a predominantly male like household with uncles and stuff like that, when shit gets hard in this world, in a sense, it's like you told to suck shit up. Like you got to be tough over here. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, well, I wouldn't want that perspective. I want a different perspective in a sense.
I
That's
guess.
real. And honestly, even some women fall into that too, of like, if you do start to express some kind of emotions, like you're less than a man just because that's the environment they've been exposed to as well.
Okay.
So,
All right. So I like what both of you are saying. And to build off of that, I love the concept of specialization. For instance, you're a generational trauma therapist, right? A different
mhm.
person is, I would really like to link up with a neurodivergent therapist because, it's been floating around that I might have autism. So I would love to talk to a person who specializes in, autism or, whatever behavioral or mental, whatever. Like I would like to talk to someone who like that's their specialty, right? So again, within the confines of a community, everyone plays a role. Everyone has an opportunity to contribute value. So if there's multiple therapeutic like roles, then your specialty is this, so your specialty is that, and then you have like it trickles down. You can have multiple people in a same role, but there's a specialization to that so that you're still distinguished. You're still like, no, you matter. Like I know that like you do something similar to Tommy over there, but Tommy does that specifically, and you do this specifically, and like that's the opportunity to like create individualization,
I have a therapist friend that does, she works with a lot of neurodivergent, um, I think it's a lot of women, but she has some males too. But she also works with personality disorders because sometimes
Okay.
those can run together.
I'd love to talk
Um,
to her. Yeah.
and she's an art therapist and she does yoga as well. So
Okay.
she may
Is she
be a good
single? No,
person to
I'm
bring
kidding.
in too.
No.
No, she's married.
Good. Even better. Honestly, even better. That was a joke. Um, but that's fantastic. That's fantastic. Yeah, I would love to talk to her. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think like if we start off with like a panel and then maybe even go to I don't know what we would call it, but if we just did like seminars with like games,
Mm-hmm.
but the games are really like
Interactive.
interactive team build to
Yes.
like really bridge and I can see it right now just being on like a football field or something
Okay. I love
and
this.
like trying to get a team to figure out like how do you get from this point to this point um by yeah, just how do you get from this point to this point? Even if it's something as simple as that. How do
Mm-hmm.
you work together to get from here to here?
Mm-hmm.
And watch how they strategize to actually get it done. Because you find out a lot about people when you start teaming. Like, get all your friends together and do an escape room. You're gonna figure out real quick.
Who eat the drops? Motherfucker waiting for everybody to give an answer and shit. Like, god damn.
Yeah, you like you find out like how people move, who's anxious, who's like gonna step in to like lead, who is more gonna sit back and listen, who's more gonna be like the mediator. Everybody kind of like who you are really shows up when you start being in a group of individuals.
So let me ask you this question. Because I'm just now touching on the value of community, and obviously this is the entire project. Um, does is everyone within a community, let's say there's a community of 50 people, is everyone required to have value, or is that like, oh, number
Yes,
40 have,
it doesn't. The value of that person doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be scaled to the next person.
of
Like the
course,
value of
of
another
course,
person can be greater, but
right,
everybody should have some type of value. Then what's the point of being
a
that
part of
person?
it.
That person should feel value in any group because if I don't feel value, why am I even here?
Yeah, like he should be able to recognize himself, and we should be able to recognize that person as the
Exactly.
value that they contribute.
Exactly.
Good. However, many of the times we don't value everything. Like, and I feel like I can talk about Chris as an example of this. Like, Chris talks slow. He talks very, very slow. And for me, I'm always impatient and in a rush to get places. Like, okay, I need you make your point quick so we can move on. But he has really taught me how to slow down and really pay attention to the little things. He has enough time and patience and care to take his time. And I have learned that you always need that person that is really going to slow you down and be like, "Hey, did you think about this? Did you worry about this?" So in other areas, maybe quick moving people or maybe people that think quick, you're like, "Oh my gosh, this is a value, this is a value." But you also got to value the person that takes their time
Hmm.
and really pays attention to everything before they move. So, yes, I would say there's value in everybody. Do we always recognize that as a monumental piece? No. But trust me, that quiet person has been observing. That quiet person has been sitting back taking notes to things that we didn't even maybe pay attention to or slow down enough to realize.
Okay.
Mhm.
So when we get a person into the fold of a community, and I'm just thinking out loud here, we would want to, as leaders within the community, be able to help him or her identify their value as quickly as possible so it solidifies their identity within the community.
And that's why I feel like the groups are so important because
Right.
you don't have a choice to be like to recognize it. Like, hey, what were you gonna say that you didn't want to say?
Hmm.
And they were like, well, I was going to say this. And it's like, man, if you had just said that, our team may have won.
Mm, mhm. Yeah.
Because none of us saw that, and you saw it and you didn't feel comfortable to speak. And then we can have the conversation of like, well, what made you not speak?
Hmm.
And that answer is probably going to be a really, really in-depth. And the thing about groups is that it just takes one person to talk about that experience for somebody else to
So,
be like, man, I understand that. Like, that was me. But that
yep.
person may have the words for it that you didn't have the words to describe.
They're just
Yes.
waiting for somebody else to say they got courage through somebody else.
Exactly.
Okay, so let's talk about the sequential order of how we would move forward. Um, we've mentioned panel a couple times. What does that look like on your end? Because on my end, the type of stuff that comes to mind when it comes to a panel is, all right, well, the organization of it. I think of linking up with pre-established Black communities. One that comes to mind off the top of my head is called Walk Good LA. Walk Good LA, which is managed by a man named Etienne and his sister, who I can't remember the name of.
Yeah, they're what you call them as kids. That actor, what's
Yes,
her name?
yes, yes, yeah,
I
yeah,
know who you're talking about.
yeah.
Suburban LA too is another one. My boy
Okay.
Scotty runs to.
Yeah, that's one I haven't heard of.
It's
Yeah, yeah. So my idea would be to link up with like the leaders within those communities, talk to them about this intention, and then maybe do like a joint partnership collaboration kind of thing where we do the panel within their community. That's one idea. The other idea would be having to actually like promote and organize the whole thing ourselves, which obviously has its drawbacks. But
I mean, I was in my mind, I was like, we're gonna do this head on by ourselves. But honestly, you're probably right. We probably need to do the initial one with another group.
mhm,
And then after that, because Walk Good LA has a really, really, there's a lot of people connected with them.
mhm,
yep.
I mean, they're huge. So we would definitely be able to reach a lot more people in collaboration with a group like theirs.
mhm.
And then maybe after that, I mean, true enough, they may call us to do it again. They will call us to do it again. And in between time, we can host some of them ourselves.
I like that.
But I think you're right in collaborating with other groups, though.
Yeah, yeah. Just because in forming a community, it's I don't know. It's like
You
I
want to use the community.
yeah, yeah. I believe in the power of collaboration too. I mean, that's why Valley and I are working together because I believe that we can do more together. So if we're looking to build a community, where else would we go besides a community, you know?
Hmm.
Okay. And then so far as making sure that that gets scheduled and organized in the proper timeline, which is obviously sooner than later, that would be fantastic. I do want to float some ideas of because me as a filmmaker, I'm interested in like actually attempting to capture these kinds of dialogues and conversations in a cinematic way to present it in the form of something that you can watch on your laptop or your television. So I do want to float that idea as we make the preparations to organize something within a separate community like Walk Good or the one that Valley just mentioned,
Suburban LA.
Suburban LA.
I think in terms of the panel, I think it should be experiential too. So even if we're up there talking, that's why I talked about like the fidget toys and the like the sensory toys and stuff. So we can have them with papers or like little what they call them, little notebooks at their seats,
Mhm.
and they can be writing certain things that like pop out to them. Then with everything they write down, we could have them, okay. So if you have, let's say, what are those things called? The ones you squeeze.
Oh, stress balls?
Yes, the stress balls. Let's say you write all this stuff down, and I ask you, okay, I need you to squeeze the stress ball as many times as you wrote content on that piece of paper. It's
Mhm.
going to get pretty sore after some time if you've written down a lot of stuff. So
Mhm.
tell me what that experience is like. You know that it hurts your hand that you've held on to all this stuff, but what are you actually doing about it
Mhm.
instead of putting it on a piece of paper? Because you have a choice in it. Going back around to your choices, you have a choice in everything. Like you have a choice to let go of emotions, you have a choice to keep them
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
hold on to them. You have a choice to be around those people or not be around those people. And then we say, I don't have a choice. I don't have a choice. Tell me why you don't have a choice to be around your mama. Tell me why you don't have a choice to be around your brother. Yes, it's not an easy decision, but why haven't you made the choice? Because once you make the decision that you're going to do it, then you've decided that you're going to keep that stressor and that's worth it to you. Then
Yeah.
you can't complain about it because you made that choice.
I love that. I love that. And it goes back to the whole raising awareness of the choices that you're not making. So
Correct.
once the awareness is solidified and the choice is now presented to you in right in front of you, now it's like, okay, well, if you choose to stay with the stressor, then like that is the choice that you have made, as opposed to an unconscious decision that you're just living with due to the pattern that you were kind of born into.
That part.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Okay. So in summary, it's it's a series of choices that will lead a person into the version of themselves that they want to become. A series of
Yeah.
choices.
And I really want to test, if you guys want to do it, we can record it. I can do a genogram with either one of you guys,
Mhm.
and we can record it and look at the patterns and just get one of those in the moment, like, oh shit. Like I did one, me and Chris did one together when we first got together. Well, I did it because I was curious to see what our kids were going to receive from us, you know? So we did it both sides. We went through his family, went through mine, and looked at the patterns. And I was like, so if me and him don't change particular things pertaining to communication, pertaining to how to relationship, not getting divorced, all of that, then our kids, if we don't fix it, then our kids inherit it.
Mm,
So what are we going to do as a couple for our kids not to inherit our past family situations?
mhm,
It puts
mhm.
a lot into viewpoint when you start looking at like what I don't fix, my kids are going to have.
I love that. Yeah. Yeah, that's good. That's good. I'm 100% down to do a genogram. I think Valley and I should do it. Because I think the better we understand each other, because this is a team, we're building a team. So the better that we understand each other and our own weak points or the things that we need to work on. Because one thing that Valley and I are good at is we do hold each other accountable. It's like, hey, Valley, yo, bro, like, you sure and Valley does the same thing with me. So having that greater level of awareness of like the things that we need to work on will be, I see the value in it.
I'm
Yep,
cool with it.
down with it.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. All
So I
right.
think next steps is you want to do that. We can do that before the panel. So if we just schedule when we want to do those,
Mhm.
I'll get well, I usually do it on the computer, but we can do it to where you know how sometimes they have a recordings where you can see what they're doing on a screen too, or they pop
Mhm.
back and forth. Because I
Mhm.
have a software that I do the genograms on. I can do it on paper. It's just easier on the screen. It just looks cleaner. Because if I start drawing boxes, you're gonna be like,
What the fuck is this?
exactly. So it's easier for me to use my program. Then you can see it very, very clearly where I'm at on the screen, what I'm developing and processing, and you can kind of flip back and forth. It takes a good, like a real thorough genogram, takes about 2 hours
Okay.
because you'll get into the storytelling piece of it, which
Love it.
is going to be big for you, Shaun, as a storyteller. You get into the stories of like why you're saying somebody is the way that they are. So let's say you're talking about a sibling. I'll ask you, give me two things you like about this person and one thing that they could work on. And once you get to the things that they could work on, you'll realize that was a pattern that started back to the grandparents.
Mm, mm,
And you're like, man, I got the same problem and now I know why. I was taught to be this way. I understood life by having this particular characteristic or dynamic in my life.
right, right. And then, so does it factor in, how do I describe it? Race. Does it factor in like, so it's like
Mhm.
if you're born black in America in 2000, right? Your experience of America is different than a white person's. So,
Correct.
right. So that also has to be factored into
Historical context is always important. So you look at the historical context from your grandparents and the way that they responded to you
Mm-hmm.
and how that got to you, which is why, you probably read it in my dissertation where I talk about race,
Mm-hmm.
and how, typically the grandmother was a holder of like culture and passed it down. And the reason why she was is because so many men were sold off. So the placement of a male in the family was removed just because they were so detached from the family. Male sold off, female having to kind of hold it down with the kids by herself, which we like to talk about a lot about the Black broken family, not realizing the family got broken up during slavery. So men trying to find their position in the family now has not always been the most welcome. And Black women have taken charge in a lot of ways because they haven't had a choice. But instead, it becomes a fight between Black men and Black women instead of
Hmm.
understanding like these were
Yeah,
the inherited dynamics.
it was just during the 80s. I mean, they created the crack epidemic and separated the black man from the household, made welfare for females to feel like they had help, but really ain't got help. So it's
Uh
like
huh.
Yeah.
they got help, so that makes them say fuck these niggas. We don't need a nigga, but at the same time, they ain't getting shit from the government but fucking crumbs and pennies.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
really bad. It's really bad.
It's
And
and it's really sad because it's really, especially now, it's kind of come back up and created more division where you have now a lot of Black men and even a lot of Black women are saying like, I'd rather not date a Black man or I'd rather not date a Black woman because they're too hard or they're too harsh or and
And
we
what's
don't
funny
really.
is I will say, like, I can't even sit here and say a few years ago I was definitely one of them men. I'm married outside of my race, which don't blame anybody, doing what they want to, but my grandmother is white, my grandfather is black. So it's not like I don't have already like some type of opinion about mixed racial marriages and stuff like that. But with going through what I've went through and dealing with all the women that I've dealt with over my life, I truly believe that yeah, there is a crazy ass separation and divide between black women and men. But when you can find a man and a black woman and a black man that are on the same frequency, there is no woman on this earth that can understand a black man the way a black woman can. And that's just
Mhm.
my true belief, because there's just like having conversations with another race and trying to get them to understand how I feel when we get put over, or how the white world views us, or how this is like they don't they have too many questions on why we view some shit a certain way, when as if a black woman was to hear this shit like, oh yeah, shit, that happens to them too. So it's
so
no different than what we're going through. But any other race, they question every fucking, oh well why you can't look at it like that. They try to give a fucking perspective on some shit that they didn't even going through. How the fuck do you want to give a perspective on some shit you ain't ever even went through?
So check this out, because this totally applies. I learned this from my brother yesterday. He gave me a study that was done on monkeys, where group of monkeys, there's a banana in the environment, right? A monkey goes to pick up the banana and eat it, and it shocks. Like whenever the monkey picks up the banana, it shocks every monkey in the environment, right? So it gets to the point where the monkeys aren't picking up the banana, and if someone does, then that monkey gets beat up by everyone else because, dude, you're picking up the banana, you're shocking everyone, right? So they swap out the banana, right? And they swap out, let's say, 50% of the monkeys from that experience. So it's new monkeys. They don't know about the banana and the shocking or whatever, right? A new monkey goes to pick up the banana and no one gets shocked because it's a new experiment. But 50% of the people that were being shocked, they still beat up the monkey because of the trauma from the experience of the banana shocking everyone. And like that's the example of black race
Learn.
versus everyone else. We've been systematically oppressed for centuries, and then when we get another race in the picture who hasn't been, they can't fully understand the trauma that our race has been through within this country due to the fact that they haven't had the experience. So they're just looking at us like, what do you, it's just a banana. Just pick up the banana and eat it, you know? And we're like, no, no, it shocks you. Like, you don't understand, it shocks you.
But even apart from that example with races, I feel like you can use that as an example of anything.
Oh,
When
yeah.
Yeah.
you're the only person that has a perspective of something, and you're in a room of people that have like a totally different perspective,
Yeah.
it can bring about the same kind of differences, the
Yeah.
same type of fights.
Yeah.
Because some people in their beliefs, if you destroy their belief system, they get pretty violent about it. This is
Mhm.
my way that I understand the world, and you sitting here saying blah 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 blah. So that could be to another black person, another white
But I
person.
kind of feel like perspective is all based off of that underlining word where people say common sense. Like common sense is raised or born in your household. So if motherfuckers is walking around with the fucked up perspective on how blacks are done and versus how they're not done, that means that you are growing up in a society or a household that doesn't really care or view what's going on in society as wrong. It's just how I
Correct.
feel.
Correct.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
That
Because let's be real, like to see a black man get shot and killed by the police, and well, he should have never moved. He had a gun. You're making up all these weird ass excuses and just saying he shouldn't have got killed. That's weird. That's fucking dumb. So
Yeah.
no, like that a perspective is it's inherited.
Yeah. I agree. I agree.
That's real. And you know
Yeah.
what? I think a lot of the times too, what I'm finding is that we have lost our compassion. And I think that's the part that's really sad to me is that like I can have compassion for you if you experience getting shot. I can have compassion for you if your daughter is sick.
Mm-hmm.
I can have compassion if your family is separated. And if we lose that kind of compassion, are we animals? Like, where have we turned to? Like, the things that makes us human is our emotions and our feelings, compassion. If we lose that, what are we doing?
So, and that's something that, like you're touching on something that I'm developing a greater interest in, which is this whole concept of is the prioritization of self-preservation, like we're now at the point in with the advancements in technology and society, the progress that we're making, is self-preservation really the thing that we should be putting at the top of the of the priority when it comes to how we interact with one another? Because it's from my perspective that self-preservation was a factor centuries ago, thousands of years ago, when, when like it's life or death, we're in survival mode. But I don't feel like us as a society as a whole are still in survival mode. So, and perhaps maybe it's just from my perspective of feeling like I'm not in survival mode. So like now I'm asking the question, what's beyond self-preservation? Because I haven't felt the
Why
need.
why do you say you're not in survival mode? I think because I feel like survival mode can be a different perspective, like in a sense, a different perspective from different views. Like you might not be in survival mode to yourself and to other people, but the way I view it, you are.
Hmm.
Everything that you're doing right now, trying to put this shit together to try to propel your life to somewhere else, you're doing exactly what you just said you're not.
I guess it's a matter of perspective.
No, for sure. That's why I
Yeah.
just literally said that.
Yeah, and I guess from my perspective, to move through the world with the mindset that I'm in survival mode, it does put a an idea that this is self-preservation and it's me or them, or it's me and someone else.
I
And
think in what you're saying, perspective is a huge piece, and it's what we deem as important. So let's talk about PTSD for a second, and we can talk about PTSD, let's say in the hood, and PTSD in war. The people that typically get PTSD is when something happens so basically egregious against their own personal beliefs. So that's why if three people can get in a car accident and one person comes out with PTSD, it's the belief about the event. It's not necessarily the event that took place. Because you can go to war and not have PTSD. And it's because you believe that you were fighting for your country, where somebody else can be like, but I killed somebody. It's the perspective and belief about the event. We may all have trauma, not all of us have PTSD. So
mm,
I think when it comes to survival could mean like, oh, you stepping on my hood, like, and this is what I protect. This is my safe zone.
mhm,
So you can't come over here with this, or else you're going to be killed because this is what I deem as safe,
mhm,
and normal.
mhm.
So I think it's very much so a perspective thing, and which is why I feel like when I was in school and growing up, it was always um, it was always a prized value to have experience outside of your own household, experience outside of your own norms, so you can understand and have a broader perspective. Sometimes we have limited perspectives because we just want to protect what we deem as important in our little space, and we don't ever adventure outwardly to have a broader perspective. So we're in competition between a limited perspective and a broad one.
Thanks.
So your question is such a deep question, which is why I was like, let me think about that. Because for certain people, my space, I want to protect it. And like, let's say for a lot of, and I hate to say it this way, I may get a lot of flack, but if you look at like, let's say the population of people that say love Trump, from their perspective, depending on what they have or don't have, many of the followers of Trump are coming from low socioeconomic status, a lot of them. And they're coming from a particular perspective of wanting to grow and wanting to have more, which I can understand. How do I get more? But if I'm given the perspective that other people are getting it easy and I'm still struggling, it's going to make me fight to protect what I deserve or what I should have. But if you don't take the time to see anything outside of that perspective, then you don't understand that there's other dynamics that may be impacting why you may not have more. And I could say the same thing about in Black communities in the hood. You could be having more, but there's a limited perspective and maybe a comfortability about where you're at. So I think when you start looking at it from those pieces and have, again, that compassion, you can look at each situation and kind of understand. Now, that doesn't change my viewpoint on what should happen, but it does give a different type of perspective and helps you understand. Now, what do you do about it is, again, a deeper question. And obviously, if it was that easy, we wouldn't be in the state that we're in right now.
Yeah, and obviously that's the answer I'm looking for. I'm looking to figure out what can we do about it, because it is my perspective that walking around with a survival mentality, that there are people in better positions than you and that you deserve to be in those positions, creates a feeling of lack and a feeling of without, that creates envy and creates a desire for.
Okay, so not to cut you off, but your definition of that word, you feel like when you're in survival mode, you feel what you're saying right now, like you look.
Yeah, it becomes a priority of self-preservation. Because I need to survive, I have to look out for me and my own first, and then everything else comes in second. Whereas when you're in a position or a mentality of thriving, you're thinking about, how can I make the world better? How can I bring other people up to my level so that we can all thrive together? That's the mindset I'm looking to suggest to the rest of the world, honestly.
That is such a profound question. That's such a profound question.
Yeah, because the way I look at it, like, I mean, shit, I've watched my parents be in survival mode my entire life. I don't look at them looking at anybody else as envious. Like
Yeah,
growing
but
up,
how do they interact with people?
shit, my
You're
parents.
Hold on.
Go
Yeah.
ahead.
I was just gonna say, when you're in a mindset, like let's say you had $1 million or an unlimited amount of financial resources, unlimited amount. So if a person comes up to you and you have an unlimited amount of financial resources and they ask you for $1,000, how do you feel about giving $1,000?
Shit, if I got it, I got it.
Exactly. Exactly. Because you're not in a perspective of,
But see,
oh,
Lynn,
I take a thousand.
so that's what I'm trying to tell you. It's that. Okay, so that's why I'm asking this because, bro, even when my parents didn't have it,
Mhm.
if you can come ask them, they was gonna give it to you and wouldn't ask for it back.
Well, that sounds like good people.
So that's what I'm trying to say. So it's like it's in you and not on you. You either have to have that in you or you don't. You can't. So it's like I'm not like survival mode is not like a me thing. It's just like shit. And the way I look at it, like shit, I'm in a bit of a survival mode. I'm trying to get out of, just like I said, I've watched my parents do it for everybody in a sense, but it's like nobody ever done for them, and they've never complained about it. But it's like I'm in survival mode now, so I can provide the life that they gave to other people, and myself included. So it's like I don't give the perspective of survival mode as being a negative notion of somebody. No, shit. I mean, let's be real. Like everybody has a different perspective on survival mode. So don't let me knock how you believe it.
Hmm.
But I just believe that shit survival mode is like my Mamba mentality. Shit, I'm just time to kick some shit into gear and see, like, you know what I'm saying? So that's how
Yeah,
I believe it.
and that's a mode, and that's a mindset, which I'm completely in support of.
which is also very rare,
Yes,
I have
No,
to
for
say.
sure. No, for but that's why I said no, and that's why I said
yeah,
you have to have it. You
yeah.
have to have that.
But how do you
Well,
train them?
that was where I was gonna go next. Like, how do you train somebody that may not have it naturally? Because I think on the opposing side, it's just gonna be like, I'm worried about me and my own. And it's because they think the perspective is because I'm struggling, there's no value here. Nobody's working to be like a me. But I always go back to the things that are actually valuable, like consistency is a prize. Um, Being supportive is a prize. Being kind is a prize. But if you don't ever look at those things as value, you're going to be
Mm.
tracing the monetary things, which is how
Damn.
it started. The
Ah,
fleshly
yes.
stuff
Yeah.
from like the soul stuff.
See, and this is why it goes back to the community being the solution over financial resources. Because if
Bingo.
you build a community, then and it's a
That's
real
the
community.
finances.
Yeah.
You can never literally funnel like you.
Yes.
People don't even understand like when
It's got to be real though.
you have. But I'm saying yeah, for sure. But you don't need money when you have a community because the community
Yes.
becomes the resources.
Yes. Yes. Especially if I'm in the community because I'm finna be a billionaire. So,
Shit. Who you talking, nigga? Me too.
all right.
You know, like the
Trillionaire.
thing is, and it's so crazy that we're having this conversation. I prayed probably last year sometime. I said, you know what? God, I pray that you bless me enough to be a blessing to other people. And I was talking about money, is really what I was coming at. But now that, especially in this conversation, it was like, yeah, the prayer was already answered. It just didn't look the way I thought it would look.
Hmm.
Because this type of thing that we're talking about right now, it's beneficial enough to give somebody something that they didn't know that that was actually a good quality.
Hmm.
Like we look so much to be like, can you give somebody something? But maybe you're good at fixing doors and my
Mm,
door is broken.
mm, mm.
Maybe you're good at fixing cars and I can't afford $600 to go get this fixed. And you could change my oil. Let
Man,
me just buy the parts for it, what you need to change the oil because you don't have the means and you're a mechanic, but I can give you the supplies and you can fix my car, which is
but
still cheaper for me.
and
Yeah.
that's how it usually. That's how it's supposed to be. Like that saying, "It take a village to raise a baby."
Yep.
Like that's how it should be with everything. Shit.
I couldn't agree
You,
more. I
you
couldn't
ain't
agree more.
you ain't got milk at your house or shit. You got 30 motherfuckers in
Yeah.
this village that might have some milk. So
And
shit.
we're not doing that. We're not doing that. We need to do that. We need
So it's
we
like,
And
so need
maybe
to do
there's
that.
a pocket. I know somebody that got a cow.
man,
So
and
let me go.
what's crazy is they'll say the saying like it takes a village to raise a baby, but then the movie, like after the movie Friday, like borrowing sugar and shit from your neighbors and shit became a joke instead of it really being the real thing that it was always. Like
Yeah, man.
you just something to go well, ask your neighbor. Your neighbor got it because
Yeah.
I was in a position where we've had to ask the neighbor for some sugar before. So
So that's where we are. That's what we're doing is basically reminding people that community is more valuable than money. That's basically
it's,
the
it's
mission.
more value than money in it and self.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Amen.
We're
Amen.
we're 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 definitely trying to help people become the best version of themselves, but the best version of themselves should not be having money. Like
Right. Yeah.
that has to be
It's
that has to
it's
like now that we're talking about this, everybody's perspective. Oh, the best version of me is rich with a big ass house so I can do this for my family. Like, no, it's not it. And that's if that's the case, then you're not a part for this. You're
hmm
not for this.
hmm the best version of yourself is a person who provides value and you become better by providing greater value. And that's what
And
the community helps you do.
and not only that, you're already valued.
Mm-hmm.
You just need to recognize what that value is
Value
for
is.
yourself. So that you can actually expound upon that. Like I feel like we're already born with the gifts that we have. We're already born with the value. It's just a matter of you actually tapping into that
Yep.
against what the world says because
Mhm.
the world is fleshly. The world is going to hell. The world is what it is. But if you tap into like who you really are and like what the things that are good And sometimes your household may not recognize it, but if you recognize it, you got to hold tight to it
Yeah.
because somebody is looking to shut you up.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
hmm hmm All right. Well, we definitely all understand the vision, which I'm obviously very excited about. Then it always goes back to execution. So to summarize execution, we've got a couple things in the works. We want to do genogram. Is that to be in person or is that another Zoom call?
It's that one's going to be better in person. And
Okay.
like I said, we can record it.
Okay.
So if you want to do cameras and stuff for that, I think that would be really, really good.
Yeah, and I think it'd be not like that, but a 2 hour Zoom call, I feel like I'd fuck around and doze off on you guys or some shit. So it'd be better if you guys
I
got
like
me.
the transparency and awareness.
Yeah. I mean, I think in person is going to be best. I mean, but the thing is, you don't really realize it's 2 hours. Once you
Right.
get into
Oh,
it,
it blows
You're engaged.
past.
Yeah.
because it's the stories. Like when you get into like my uncle did this and this and it changed the whole trajectory of our family.
Okay.
Like when you really get into, or like my mom used to be this way and she used to do this and that, and this is what I learned from it. At the time I didn't know it, but now I know it now. You get so much of the huge picture and an understanding of who we're talking to.
Okay. I love it. So I agree that this should be filmed. It sounds like a fun thing to film. So I guess the next step would just be scheduling it, getting a videographer and location, all that good stuff. But that sounds like the next step. And then while that's being finalized, I'll continue to further the relationship with Walk Good. I only met Etienne once. He seems like a good guy, so I'll just start, and I've got other connections into that community. So I'll start planting those seeds for that. I'll start familiarizing myself with what was it that you said? Suburban?
Suburban LA. I know
Suburban?
the owner, my boy Scotty.
Okay, yeah. If you
Yeah,
can,
he's the one that threw. He was like the big, when I say LA based news outlet that covered the Ebony Beach show that I went
okay.
to.
Yeah, I mean, if you've got a contact,
Ebony Beach Club is a good one too. I really
Yeah.
like him.
No, I know
okay.
the owner of Ebony Beach Club too.
Shit, let's talk to all of them. Let's talk to all of them. Okay, that sounds great. And then I think there was one other thing, but I think we just kind of matched two together, the genogram
Um,
and the
the
and
genogram, the panel, and eventually, if we want to move to
games.
the games.
Yes, 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 yes. Okay. So that's our sequence. Love it. Okay, shit.
This was a good, hearty, meaty 1 hour.
Yeah,
We got a lot out in an hour.
Oh man,
sure
I
did.
love hours condensed hours of productivity. That's my favorite. I'll probably do nothing for the rest of the day. I'm kidding. No, I'm not kidding though, but I'm kidding. But me and Val are gonna link up.
I'm like, me and Chris are packing. We got to catch this flight later tonight. Because I'm
Oh,
like, you just came back and like, we're going to Boston and Rhode Island. So,
nice.
Okay.
Nice.
yeah.
Now
Safe
have
travels.
fun and be safe.
Yeah,
Yes. Thank
cool.
you. Thank you.
Of course.
All right, well, Valley, I'm gonna eat some breakfast and then I'm gonna head over to you.
All right, big dog. I see
Yep.
you.
And I'll text you guys to see when we want to schedule.
Okay,
Okay.
I love it.
You have a great day and safe travels.
All
Yes.
right. Thanks, you guys
All right.
too.
See you
Bye.
Bye.
guys. Bye.